Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and it's lovely to have you join me. My guest today is Maria Hopwood, a powerhouse mindset mentor and conscious entrepreneur known for her unapologetic passion for helping people unlock their true potential. With over 20 years of experience in the health, wellness and personal development space, Maria has guided countless individuals to not only transform their physical health, but also elevate their mindset and reclaim their purpose. Today, Maria is going to be sharing her story of how from survival to significance, gratitude transformed her immigrant journey into a life of purpose and contribution. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Maria. It's so lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story and also to contribute to others and be able perhaps to inspire women that are looking for something new or so that they can do it.
Yes.
Just because it doesn't mean we're used by date, it's gone.
No, exactly right. And you do have a story to tell, which I'm going to be going to at the moment, but you live in sunny Queensland like I do, so we're not really far away from each other, and it's great that we're on the same time zone for a change. So that's really good. Now, we're going to be talking about you going from survival to significance and how gratitude really transformed your life from your immigrant journey into a life of purpose and contribution. And, we all have stories to share. And sometimes we think, no one would be interested in my story. But the more I talk to women, the more stories that we hear or we go, oh, yeah, I can identify that, or that's really inspiring. So I welcome you today. And I'd love you to just share with the audience a little bit about your background and then moving into your story that you'd like to share.
Thanks, Sue. What a privilege. Thank you very much. And thank you to all that are listening. So I've been on this earth for 61 plus years. And but I was brought up in Chile. I grew up in Chile, and we experienced, like I sat down. I had to think about this because when you have a different upbringing, you really have to sit down and think, well, what was it real? Did it really happen? How did it affect me? How did it make me the woman that I am today? I grew up, feeling in poverty, not being able to have enough food. My dad and mom used to, the equivalent of a 420 tin of baked beans, right? That had to do 2 days for 2 children. And there was no food. Just to give an example, as a child, I remember that. I remember not having enough, food, not lunch, to go to school. And there was no lunch. And whenever there was a little bit of lunch, it was bread that had gone moldy. And then my dad had toasted over a bit of a rake sort of thing on top of the fire to get the bits, the green bits off. Later you learn, you have a giggle, you say, oh, that was good penicillin. But that's all we had, There was no TV. We lived in a very tiny little home. There was 3 rooms, their room, our room, in the middle room, everything happened. We ate, we cooked, we did everything in there. The bathroom was dark and it was really scary going to the bathroom. We lived, there was earthquakes. Chile was renowned for earthquakes. I remember, like I'm hearing now, a lot of earthquakes around, and my heart just goes out to those people. I do know what it's like to go through an earthquake. Um,
Mm.
I remember my dad jumping over beds, grabbing my brother and I, and just jumping out and going outside because we lived on the side of the hill and the whole thing could come off, fall on top of us at any time. So it was, that's all I knew. Okay, Sue. I didn't know anything else. For me, that was normal. Not having enough to eat, you survive. Not having, going to a dive bathroom, that was kind of scary where you had to go to the bathroom, you went to the bathroom. There was, earthquakes, there was uncertainty, there was my parents' stress. My parents had 2 degrees each. Mum had three,
Mm.
my dad had two. My dad was a mathematics professor at the end. They taught themselves as adults. And I sort of think, my God, that resilience. And even so, we still couldn't make ends meet in Chile. It was, and so that sacrifice that my parents went through, what did that instill in me as a child? Fear. To start with, it's a lot of fear, lack of self-worth, lack of love. And I grew up with a survival sense, don't give me a problem because I can solve that problem. As a woman, that takes you into the very masculine side of things, doesn't it? You become,
Mm.
I've become very solution oriented, and it, it kind of gave me these skills, which very early in my adulthood life were very hard skill,
Mm.
and I became very stoic, and I can do anything regardless.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And so, I'm thinking about that because here's me, a privileged person living in Australia. And whilst my parents weren't affluent, they were working class people, I never grew up in an environment where I missed out on anything. And, I think mothers always make sure you don't, as yours did. Your mum and dad probably went without food to give it to you. So how long did you live in Chile? And then did you come to Australia with your parents, or how did you get to come to Australia?
Oh, okay. So look, because of all that, then we had to sort of contend with the military unrest in Chile.
Yes.
Then my parents decided there was a lot of oppression, a lot of lack of freedom were taken away. So one night we lived in this beautiful place, and then overnight it became a military compound where we had to, mark our names going out and mark our names coming back in. And there was no freedom. We couldn't do a lot of things. We used to sleep on the floor because we used to hear bullets going through at night. My brother and I had a bunk, so we slept on the floor, on the mattress, on the floor. Horrendous stuff. I remember my dad being taken. My dad was taken.
Mm.
And I remember as a child, you get these Marines that came in and they had a gun pointed, there were guns pointed, right? But I was a child, little. I'm not very tall. I've never grew up very much. But anyway, I was a child. And there was this gun which just level with my head. And there's all these horrible things. And my dad did come back, but we never spoke about it. It was met with silence. It was very powerful, very stressful. But there was then that when my dad came back after 6 months of being away, my dad made a decision. We need to get out of here because there's no future for us as professionals. We can't provide for our children, and there's no future for our children. And at the time when my dad made that decision, there was three of us. There was myself, my brother, and my little sister. So there was, as women as well, my dad saw the writing on the wall and he said, we got to get out. So very courageous. I'll be ever so grateful for my dad. My dad was the one who was strong enough to make the decision. Love my mum, don't get me wrong. My mum said yes, but my dad had the courage to say, we're going. Just shut everything down. And we just left with bags and a little bit of money. That's all. We had nothing else,
Mm.
but with hope, a lot of hope in our hearts. And when his hearts, we transferred to us. I was a
Mm.
child, might have been about 9 or 10 when we came over to Australia.
And yes, yes. And of course, that would have been a bit of a culture shock to you. I mean, the language, I'm not sure whether, you would have been able to speak English. And so you've got more stresses coming onto you, even coming to a new land with a lot of opportunity and promise.
It was the land of milk and honey. I remember landing in Sydney and looking outside and seeing pretty lights. That's all I remember. And getting off the tarmac, getting on a bus, and driving to Villawood, which was then a holding centre. It
Yes.
wasn't a detention centre. We had no barbed wires or anything like that in Sydney. And I remember looking at the streets and thinking, my God, everything's so clean, so clean. So it was everything, it had a lot of glitter for me as a child, you know, very pretty. And I remember being so grateful that we had gone out from that environment into this. And I remember thinking, it can't be that bad. I can learn, you know. I'd rather do that than where I've come from, sort of thing. We had no English. My dad, none of us spoke English. Spoke a word of English. You know,
Yes.
there was barriers like school challenges, but I remember going to school and I remember being able to understand. I knew maths, right? Maths is international, no matter what language you speak. And I remember being able to getting good grades in maths. So the girls that weren't good at math but knew English knew about battering system, and I got introduced to that very early in there. So I would do their math homework and they would do my English homework. And that's how I got my tribe. That's how I became friends with girls. They taught me English and, you know, sure, I faced racism, you know, I faced prejudice and all sorts of things, right? But I chose gratitude because racism and pointing the finger, the fact that I'm short, you know, dark, brown eye, whatever, I didn't care. It was much better than being a compound with guns everywhere and bullets flying. So to me, racism was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Knock yourself off type thing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
you just the same, you know?
Yeah. And I suppose as um, bad as it was living in Chile, that built up resilience. I mean, you know, I would probably think about you as a 9-year-old and me as a 9-year-old, and we would have been so totally different because I would have lived in a very closeted sort of protected world where you had seen so much in your 9 years that, you know, some of us don't even see in a lifetime. And I, you know, so I can understand that when you come out here and perhaps it's the you know, the racist talk or behavior which you would have faced would have probably been nothing, not that I'm downplaying it, but would have been nothing compared to what you'd go through. And you had this inner strength. And what I'm picking up on is another thing, you know, 9, 10, or however old you were at school, but you're thinking about gratitude and coming at things from that point of view. If that, you know, I don't even know if I would have thought that way when I was that age. So, you know, you've all your experience, that horrible experience growing up in Chile, has prepared you for life in a way that a lot of us of the same age or a little bit older would never have been, you know, had that same grounding.
Yeah. And you're right, you know, but it's an unconscious thing, all right? It's an unconscious because from one day you've nothing to eat, right? Within 24 hours, you had a plate full of food and there was nobody was going to take it away. That's just an analogy, right? So it was like, oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you. And there was that gratitude that helped me focus on what I had, not what I lacked. However, you know, that I'm not perfect. You know, I'm 61 and I've got my demons that I've got to fight like everybody else. But that allowed me to sort of learn. I was angry. Still was very angry, very frustrated because I knew there was so much more and I could taste it, but I didn't know how to get it.
Yeah. So tell me about when you sort of went through school and you finished, what paths did you take? I mean, I'm 67, so we're not too far apart in age, but so I'm sort of thinking, you know, what happened when you left school and you went to work, or what path did you actually take?
Well, I finished high school. I finished with good marks, and I applied to university and things. And I thought, I gave myself about 2 years off. Maybe a bit more because 18, 24. Yeah, no, about 24, 18 to about 5 years. Gave myself about 5 years off, and I worked. I went to TAFE. I thought I was just going to do something else. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just didn't know what to do. So I went to TAFE and I worked for what was then Grace Brothers. I'm showing my
Oh,
age.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And
I'm from Sydney, so I know Grace Brothers.
okay, good, excellent. So I became the youngest retail manager of the whole of Australia for a while, and I was in charge of a store in Blacktown. Anyway, but that wasn't it. It wasn't pulling my string. Anyway, eventually I went to university. I decided I was going to do a law degree in commerce. I like businesses. I like creating something from nothing. But the universe had other ideas. I fell in love, dropped my degree, and I got a degree in 4 children. I left
Right.
the degree, left everything, and got married, raised 4 children, and got divorced with $35 in my pocket. Lost everything. I've lost it
Mm.
twice.
So
Yeah.
that's the other thing that we talk about with you is that you have that bad start to life. Really, you've come out to Australia with you started to get on, then you've started to study, then you had the family, and now you're facing a breakdown in your relationship, and you're a single mum with 4 kids. So how did you cope with that?
Oh my goodness. Again, that survival sense that I had acquired, because living in Chile, there's nothing else, right? So people that live there, they do the very best they can, and there's nothing else. But when you compare it with what we've got here, sure, it's chalk and cheese, right? It does not compare at all. So I went to Centrelink. I went to Centrelink and I say, look, I'm sorry, but I've got 4 children. This happened, that happened, whatever. And you know, we can complain a lot about the government. I'm not saying anything political here. What I am saying is we've got a very good system, and sometimes people, as a migrant, I am ever so grateful because Centrelink, with their help, I was able to get back on my feet. Took me a little while, yes. I studied by brute force. Again, Sue, that brute force, that instinct of survival, that wanting to get ahead regardless, and don't tell me I can't do it type of attitude, which is an angry attitude, right? It's a very dark and it comes from a dark space. I taught myself and I retrained myself with free courses online until I actually got another job, and I went from zero to $70,000 in a space of a year. And I just did it. And, then my mum, of course, well, unfortunately, my mum got very sick, and there was nobody else that was available to look after her, that had the possibility or perhaps the freedom that I had achieved to look after her. So I put my hand up. What did that mean? It meant that I had to give up my job. So I went back down again. And when my mum passed away, I became my dad's carer. So I went on carer's pension again. But I had knowledge then. I had taught myself. I had become, I knew that if I apply myself again, I could get back out. So it wasn't as scary the second time in that sense. It was more emotional. So yeah, it was quite a vulnerable stage in my life, because I knew what I could do. I knew that I was getting back up again, but then all of a sudden I was back to nearly zero. Not quite, but I was just there,
Bit of a roller coaster there, especially in
Sure was.
finances. And when I'm listening to you, it really comes down to, I suppose, digging deep and the person we are and having self-belief, which many of us don't have. We don't think we can do something. And, here you were rock bottom and you've thought, well, I've got 4 kids. This was the first time. And then you had your mum and dad, to carer. So, you're having to dig deep. You could give up, but there's something within us that you've built that resilience that you just kept going. And I'm sure it must have been tough to, or so easy to say, look, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there were many times that I would just roll over, but I said, I just don't want to get up today. But you know what? I understood one thing, no matter how old you are, we're not broken. These are just experiences. So I knew I had to rebuild my life from within and also so I could then project it on the outside. And I also, my gratitude came from, I'm in Australia, I'm not in Chile, I can do this. I'm here, I can do this, and I will look around and see opportunities. So for a period of 10 years, I couldn't work because my dad was, he became very ill. So I was a carer for 10 years, but I did odd jobs here and there. I didn't mind cleaning toilets for a bit of cash. I didn't mind that. I think I have seen people get lost in the fact that they say, oh, but I've got a degree, I can't do that. I said, honey, you do what you do what it needs to be done. And it's not a bad thing and it's not a good thing. It just is. It's an experience. I remember driving a van for $100 cash, right? From 11 o'clock p.m. to 9 o'clock a.m., delivering eggs and bread to the Blue Mountains. I remember doing that. I did it for a year. Why? Because while I was learning and looking after that and doing this and looking at, I had to find some extra money somehow, and I didn't know how. So I didn't say no to things that were legal, obviously, above board. I did it, and I did it for a while.
And that's a good point too that you raised, that a lot of us put these limitations on ourselves. They either say, oh, I can't do that, that's beneath me, or I can't do that. They don't have the capacity to be able to say, I'm going to give it a try. But you have to always think, what's the worst that can happen, I think, and just try, because you'll surprise yourself at what you are capable and how strong you are as a person.
100%, 100%. We've got the spark of God within us. We're not nothing. We're everything. We've got to nurture that. Now, through all this time, though, I was very angry. I was annoyed and said, I can do this. Why is all this stuff happening? It was molding me. I can look back and say, yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I like the way you said that it was molding you, and we do at the time. Some experiences you think, oh, you can feel sorry for yourself. You can say, why is this happening to me? And then, of course, when we get older, and with the benefit of hindsight, it's all building us to be stronger people, to have that resilience and the wisdom to, get the most out of life. And I just sort of think that when you've had hardship, you do appreciate things a lot more, and you do have that extra strength that you're willing to give anything a go, because what's the alternative?
Well, that's it. That's exactly right. Don't get me wrong. There were times that I would say, why me? And I would cry. I'm tired of this. I've had enough. Why can somebody help me? Why am I doing this? And there was the pity parties. I'm not perfect. But behind, like back in the background, was like, you're not anywhere else. You're in this amazing country. You go for it. You go and find it because it's there for you. And through brute force and absolute insane desire, and knowing that I could do a little bit extra every day, I went for it. And I did it. And I was very fortunate to see my mum to the very last day, to her last breath. I was there. The same with my dad. What a privilege! These two souls brought me to a country where I'm now free. I got my children, they've got their careers, my grandma now, I've got a career myself, I'm doing okay, and all these things. And I was there to say goodbye to them. They said hello to me when I was first, and I was there to say goodbye. And I was very privileged, very, very,
yeah,
in that sense.
that's lovely. That's lovely. So let's talk about you now. You seem very vibrant and upbeat and happy and passionate. So what do you do these days to help others, and what's your purpose that you think in life?
Now that's interesting. So after all that upheaval that happened with my life, and my mom and dad passed away, that freed up some time. And you know, I got married again, and I got a wonderful husband, and we both worked in the corporate world. And we had long hours. We would travel to work 3 hours, no, 3 hours there, 2 hours there, 2 hours, 4.5 hours a day just to go to work. And we did that for years. When we retired in 2015, and we planned to travel and do all the things that, you know, when you retire, you do. I was 51, and we thought, let's retire and do something. I said, sounds great. We did. However, we retired in April, and around about June, July, my hubby got sick. So he had a small spot on the shoulder that he had for 40 years. And he used to apply an ointment. You know, the doctor will give him an ointment, you know, because it was scratchy, it was red, it was itchy, blah, blah, whatever. It was uncomfortable. Clothes will stick to it, just a little spot. But when he retired, I now know that when we work so hard and we're so stressed, our body runs on cortisol. So when you stop working, your body goes, that little spot went all over the body. It just erupted from one day to the other. It was insane. It had been brewing. Obviously, now I know that nothing happens overnight. It was brewing. And then it was horrendous. We had to change his food, his diet, his clothes, everything, because we didn't know what to do. The medical model couldn't help us. The natural model couldn't help us either. The womb, I tell you what, I tried everything, Sue. I can tell you a story. I tried everything. Poor man tried anything and everything I threw at him, right? Because I've always been in the natural side of it. Until a friend said, look, you've got to have a look at this particular technology. It is new in Australia. It might be able to help him. And you know what? I didn't care what it was. They could have said anything and we would have tried. And we did. We tried this particular technology, and within 4 days, his health transformed from zero, from being very sick, tummy distended. We thought he had a tumor. The doctors couldn't find one. His skin was so icky and sticky and red and crusty, and it would weep, and clothes would stick to the skin. And we used to spray it with water just to take his clothes off, things. About 8 or 10 weeks, we did that. And then all of a sudden, somebody says this could help. We tried it. 4 days. 4 days. It was just phenomenal. So he tried it on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. He wakes up and there's nothing on his skin, nothing. And there's no belly, nothing. And I just go, oh my goodness, what on earth is this? Well, I now know what it is. So it was brand new. I had no intention of doing anything else. We were going to travel. We love traveling, right? But then this came, it was like the universe said to me again, no, we've got this plan for you. You've got to do this. We told our friends, and we said, oh my God, look at Lee. They knew how sick he was. And they said, oh my gosh, what did he do? He did this. And I said, oh my God, tell me more. And I don't know. Anyway, a long story short, that's 10.5 years ago. I've developed this into a business. So now my purpose is to reach out to others in 2 ways. One, as to another human, to let them know that you are capable, you're worthy, you are here for a reason. And you know what? That vessel that you're walking in, and it's looking after, and it's, you know, bringing the light back in, and it's to amplify the communication so that you can do whatever it is that you want to do in this world to the best ability. Whether they take that on, that's fine. But I want to put that spark in there, right? That you are worth it, and you're so, so important. You matter. You matter. You know, only one of you in the whole wide world. There's nobody else that drinks, smokes, or if you smoke, or goes to the bathroom, or puts the makeup on, or walks, or whatever. There's only one that's got your hair, color, skin. One. You're one, unique and special. And the world is a better place because you're in it. So that's my first mission. And for that, if they want to, because I created a business, I can help people, if they so wish, to actually create wealth, if that's what they want to do. That's what I do. There's 2 things. The first one for me, it's important. Because that feeds the soul.
Yes. And I think that we don't, we live in a busy world. Even, you know, as you get older, even when you do retire, the number of people that say, oh gosh, I don't know how I fit work in because I don't have time now.
That's it. That's
But
it.
if we don't look after ourselves, our health, our mental health, and our physical health, we're not going to be able to enjoy the life that we're given.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of people get too caught up and not able to create the boundaries that are required in order to put self first, because that's not what we're programmed for. And especially if we're mothers, or we feel that we don't put ourselves first. We've got to fix up everybody else and do all that nurturing, and then there might be time for us, and usually there isn't. So it's a different mindset that we have to really adopt, isn't it?
I think that you hit the nail on the head, I think, Sue. We're programmed to think that we're not important. Everybody else around us is. The thing is that I remember having arguments with mum when I was very young, and say, mum used to say, no, but nothing else matter than your family. You've got to look after your last. And I used to fight with my mum, and I used to say, no, that's now I understand why, right? Because if your bucket is full, you've got so much to give. If you've got friends and you want to take them to the beach and you don't have petrol in the car, you can't take them to the beach. If your car's got petrol and it's full and it's comfortable and it's air conditioned and it's good, you can have a wonderful day at the beach. So I think it's really important for us to, I want to let the audience know how important it is. Fill your tank first. What do we do with the plane? Put your air, your oxygen on first, then the child. It's not the other way around. But we're so programmed to do it the other way around. And it's difficult. I'm not saying I got it around pat. I'm being honest here. I'm not telling you that I do it all the times. But if every day we do a little bit for us first, eventually it becomes a habit and you do it for you. First, when your tank is full, you then give more to others, and find that helps you find a purpose, because when your heart's full, you want to give and you find a purpose. Because when you start aligning yourself in something that's bigger than you, and that's yourself, your inner self, the inner soul that you have within you, then purpose finds you. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And you do, as you said, if you don't fill up your tank, if you don't make that time for yourself and do things that fill you up with joy, then you're not really going to be of use to anyone else, because you either haven't looked after yourself physically or mentally, and you don't have the space then to be able to look after other people or to just give to others. And so I totally agree with what you're saying there. Now, we've sort of been talking for a while, and we're coming to the end of our conversation, but I am going to put into the show notes all the links for people to find you and to discuss, because as you said, it's not just about helping people with their own personal growth, but also perhaps they can have some financial opportunity as well. I think that would be good for them to contact you. So is there anything that you would like to chat about in the last few minutes before we start closing off?
I just want to say thank you. First of all, to you, Sue, for allowing me to tell my story, a little bit of my story. And if you are listening right now, if you are listening and thinking, maybe there's more for me too. Yes, there is. I'm telling you here right now that there's so much for you. Just got to open your heart, it doesn't matter what it is. There's so much for you. You're not too late. You're not too old. We don't have a use by date at all. You are already enough. You're beautiful and you're wonderful, and the world is waiting to hear your voice.
Well, I think you've just answered the question, answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. It's the same question I ask all of my guests, but you've just probably answered it. But what does being a woman living well after 50 mean to you?
It means that it means that I am responsible for me. Number one, for me. And I'm learning that, okay? I'm responsible for me. And I bring a bucket of experience and a bucket of tribulations and a bucket of struggles that when I throw in the mix, I know that I can help somebody else. So being over 50, not over 60, for me means that I am now responsible. And I don't mean that in a heavy way. It's a knowing, it's a wanting to do this for humanity, for women. I love men, don't get me wrong. And, men do get left out. I love to help them as well. If they're listening and this is something they would like to do as well, I'm happy to talk. I mean, we're humans, we're humans, because if you're struggling, you need to reinvent yourself. Understand who you are. And again, there's so much more for you. So being over 50 for me, it's like I've got this box of gifts that I love to share with those that want to listen. Not everything will be for them. My experience might not appeal to everybody. My gifts might not appeal to everybody. But then I'm not here to please everybody. I'm here to help those that need to be helped with me, just like you are. So I've looked at your website. You're doing an amazing job. Oh my gosh. I went right through it. Beautiful, beautiful. The heart and the work that you put in, the way you're reaching out as women. I commend you for that. I will put your website out there. It's just amazing. I feel privileged to be part of that. So through you, I bring a little gift for whoever wants it.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for your kind words about myself as well. But it's always a joy to me to speak to women, and especially women like yourself who are just so passionate and really wanting to help others, because we're there to be each other's cheerleaders, aren't we?
Yeah.
And to support each other, and to, you're not alone. But at the end of the day, it does come down to the individual to really take that first step and to just try and believe in your own abilities, because having that gratitude mindset can open up the world so much to you.
It does. Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me today, Maria. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you, and I just love your energy. I love your passion, as I've said, and your resilience, and it's really been an inspiration for me, and I know for the listeners, to hear your story and to know that, even though we go through dark times or difficult times, we can always lift ourselves up and rise out from them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I appreciate you, because I see you as a woman. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
Appreciate it.
Well, that was a very inspirational chat that I had with Maria Hopwood, from survival to significance, and hearing about her life growing up in Chile and then moving to Australia and overcoming lots of struggles, but to be where she is today, inspiring other women and helping other women to achieve their best in life. So I hope you've enjoyed the episode and that you'll share it with a friend, because I know that they will benefit from hearing Maria's story as well. I'll be putting all the links to Maria's contacts in the show notes as usual. And until next time, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.